Rain hammered the Boston streets, turning the asphalt into a slick black mirror reflecting the city's glow. Ethan Sterling straightened his silk tie, his weary gaze fixed on the sprawling urban vista from his penthouse office. The minimalist clock on the wall read 11:30 p.m., a stark reminder that he was, yet again, the last soul in the skyscraper. With a deep sigh, Ethan grabbed his leather briefcase and a sleek black umbrella, sparing a final glance for the photograph on his desk, a shot of him and Olivia, their smiles bright against a Santorini backdrop, from a time that felt increasingly distant. His determined steps echoed through the cavernous, empty lobby as his Italian leather shoes met the polished marble. The night doorman offered a respectful nod, holding the door open to the storm beyond. Ethan paused, watching the fat raindrops splatter and dance on the pavement. Popping open his umbrella, he plunged into the Boston night. His black Audi awaited, a solitary shape in the executive lot. Ethan quickened his pace, eager for the warmth and quiet of his car, eager to escape the biting cold and damp. It was then that a flicker of movement drew his eye. On a bench in the small, manicured park across from the building, half hidden by shifting shadows and the relentless curtain of rain, something stirred. Ethan narrowed his eyes, a strange, inexplicable thrumming starting in his chest. Two small, huddled shapes, shivering and clinging to one another, materialized from the gloom. For a fleeting moment he considered just getting in his car. A man of his stature and success wasn't meant to wade into situations that screamed of risk and complication. But something, perhaps the profound emptiness that had settled in his bones lately, or a stubborn flicker of compassion the corporate world had failed to extinguish, made him change his course. As he drew closer, the air seemed to vanish from his lungs. Two little girls, no older than 5 or 6, as identical as twin pearls, were crouched beneath a single, sodden jacket. Golden curls were plastered to their pale, tear and dirt-streaked faces. "Hello," Ethan called out softly, extending his umbrella to shield them from the downpour. "Are you lost?" The girls flinched, their heads snapping up, identical pairs of wide, terrified eyes staring back at him with raw mistrust. Ethan tried again, his voice even gentler. "Where are your parents? Can I help you find them?" Silence. The twins only burrowed deeper into each other, their trembling now a combination of cold and sheer terror. That's when the realization hit Ethan like a physical blow. They couldn't hear him. They were deaf. His heart clenched painfully. He scanned the deserted park, hoping to spot a frantic parent, but there was no one. The rain fell without mercy, and it was clear the children had been exposed to it for hours. Ethan hesitated. Bringing unknown children home was madness, wasn't it? Olivia would be furious. But the thought of leaving them here, alone and so utterly vulnerable, was unthinkable. With a sigh of resignation, he made his decision. Using slow, deliberate gestures and exaggerated facial expressions, Ethan managed to coax the twins to follow him to his car. They moved like frightened fawns, their hands locked together as if their very lives depended on it. The drive to the Sterling estate was thick with tension. Ethan's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror again and again, studying the two tiny figures dwarfed by the opulent back seat, their drenched clothes leaving dark stains on the fine leather. As the wrought iron gates of the property swung open, a wave of anxiety washed over him. How on earth would he explain this to Olivia? His wife, always so meticulous, so averse to any disruption of her perfectly curated life, would surely not welcome two strange, grimy children into her immaculate home. The lights at the main entrance flared on before Ethan had even parked. Olivia appeared in the doorway, a silk robe flowing around her, her usually composed face a mask of shock as she watched Ethan help the twins from the car. "Ethan, what? Who are these children?" Olivia's voice was a shaky whisper, her wide eyes fixated on the two soaked little figures. "I found them abandoned in the park," Ethan explained quickly, guiding the girls inside. "They seem to be deaf. I couldn't leave them out there in that storm." Olivia recoiled as if the children might carry some unseen contagion. But what are we going to do with them? We can't just—" Her protest was cut short when one of the twins let out a small, frightened sneeze that echoed in the grand entryway. Instinct overrode her hesitation, and Olivia found herself calling for the housekeeper. "Martha, quickly, bring towels and dry clothes and prepare a hot bath." The next few hours were a whirlwind. The twins, still silent and wary, were bathed, dressed in soft pajamas, and fed hot soup. Ethan and Olivia watched, a mixture of fascination and unease swirling within them, as the little girls ate with a desperate hunger, as if they hadn't seen a proper meal in days. When they were finally settled in a guest room, the girls huddled together on the vast bed, their huge, distrustful eyes tracking every move the adults made. Ethan felt a lump form in his throat at the sight of their raw fear and vulnerability. Back in their master suite, Olivia sank onto the edge of the bed, utterly exhausted. "What do we do now, Ethan? We can't just keep them." Ethan sat beside his wife, wrapping a supportive arm around her shoulders. "First thing in the morning, I'll call the police and social services, but tonight they need a safe place to sleep." Olivia nodded slowly, her gaze distant. They looked so scared, so lost. Ethan pressed a gentle kiss to his wife's temple. "I know this wasn't how we planned tonight, but sometimes the heart takes us down unexpected paths," Olivia finished, a small, weary smile touching her lips. That night, as the storm continued to rage outside, a different kind of quiet settled over the Sterling estate. In the guest room, two tiny figures slept, curled into one another, finding a moment of peace for the first time in a long, long while. And in the master bedroom, Ethan and Olivia lay awake, their minds buzzing with unanswered questions, yet their hearts feeling inexplicably lighter. Fate had placed Lily and Daisy in their path, and something told Ethan that nothing in their lives would ever be the same. What tomorrow would bring, he had no idea. But one thing was certain. Those girls had found a place in his heart, a place that went far beyond the silence surrounding them. Ethan's office had never felt so sterile as it did that morning. Seated in his custom leather chair, he stared blankly at the stack of documents before him, each page a testament to the complex web he had stepped into. Across the polished mahogany desk, the family lawyer, Mr. Harrison, adjusted his spectacles, his expression a careful blend of concern and professional curiosity. "So, you really want to go forward with this, Ethan?" Mr. Harrison asked, his voice heavy with caution. "Temporary adoption is not a simple process, especially given the unique circumstances." Ethan leaned back, his gaze drifting to the new photo that now held a place of honor on his desk. The image, snapped just a week prior, showed a hesitant smile on Olivia's face as Lily and Daisy, still shy, nestled close to her. "We don't have a choice, Harrier," Ethan replied, his tone firm. "Those girls need us, and to be honest, I think we need them too." With a resigned sigh, Mr. Harrison began to lay out the daunting process. Visits from social workers, psychological evaluations, home adjustments. It was a seemingly endless list of bureaucratic hurdles. Ethan absorbed every word, resolute in his determination to do whatever it took. Meanwhile, back at the Sterling estate, Olivia found herself in a situation she could never have foreseen. She was sitting on the plush living room rug, watching intently as the sign language instructor they'd hired, Sarah Miller, demonstrated basic signs. Sarah, a young woman with a gentle smile and remarkably expressive hands, was patiently guiding her through the fundamentals. "Good morning," Olivia signed, her hands moving with an awkwardness she wasn't used to. Across the room, Lily and Daisy watched, their expressions a mix of surprise and burgeoning curiosity. Seeing the once imposing Mrs. Sterling on the floor, making strange shapes with her hands, was entirely new. Sarah smiled encouragingly. "Very good, Mrs. Sterling. Now, how about we try, 'How are you?'" Olivia repeated the sign, this time with a bit more confidence. To her astonishment, Daisy, the bolder of the two, responded with a small smile, and the sign for fine. Olivia's heart did a little flip. It was the first time one of the girls had directly initiated communication with her. A sudden wave of emotion, something warm and unfamiliar, washed over her. The following weeks ushered in subtle yet profound transformations at the Sterling estate. The oppressive silence of the past was replaced by a living quiet filled with gestures, expressions, and a budding mutual understanding. Ethan, the ever-busy executive, began carving out evenings and weekends exclusively for his new family. His hands, once skilled only in navigating boardrooms and closing deals, now moved with a clumsy but affectionate determination as he tried to communicate with the twins. One evening at dinner, Lily accidentally knocked over her glass of water. The sharp crack of breaking glass echoed through the formal dining room, and for a tense moment, everyone froze, waiting for the twins' reaction. To everyone's surprise, Olivia reacted first. She gently knelt beside Lily, signing, "It's all right," and "accidents happen." The little girl, tears welling in her eyes, signed back, "Sorry." Without a second thought, Olivia pulled her into a hug, whispering comforting words that, while unheard, were deeply felt. Ethan watched the exchange, a mixture of pride and admiration swelling in his chest. This was a side of Olivia he hadn't seen in years, caring, patient, maternal. The family's routine gradually found a new rhythm. Mornings, once filled with the rustle of the Wall Street Journal and the clink of coffee cups, were now enlivened by enthusiastic gestures and timid smiles. Olivia, to everyone's astonishment, including her own, began waking earlier to help the twins get dressed and prepare their breakfast. One afternoon, Ethan arrived home early and found a scene that stopped him in his tracks at the living room doorway. Olivia was sitting on the couch with a children's book in her lap, her hands moving with a newfound grace as she told the story in sign language. Lily and Daisy were utterly captivated, their eyes shining with fascination. When Olivia noticed him, she smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that lit up her entire face. "Come join us, darling," she signed, surprising Ethan with her fluency. "Join our story time." As days bled into weeks, the Sterling estate, once a cold monument to success and perfection, became a home. Colorful drawings began to appear on the stainless steel refrigerator, small pairs of shoes materialized by the entryway, and most surprisingly of all, there was laughter. Yes, the laughter of children who could not hear but could certainly feel joy echoed through the hallways. Olivia, in particular, seemed to blossom. Her social calendar, once packed with charity galas and corporate dinners, now revolved around sign language lessons, the twins' medical appointments, and afternoons at the park. She immersed herself in Lily and Daisy's silent world, determined to build a bridge of understanding and love. One evening, as Ethan worked in his home office, Olivia entered quietly, her eyes shining in a way he hadn't seen in years. "They called me Mommy today," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "In signs, it's of course, but, Ethan, they called me Mommy." Ethan stood, pulling his wife into a tight hug. He felt her tears soak his shirt, realizing with a start that his own eyes were brimming. "I always knew you'd be a wonderful mother," he whispered. Olivia pulled back slightly, looking into her husband's eyes. "Thank you," she said simply, but Ethan understood the universe contained within that single phrase. A thank you for bringing them home on that stormy night, for insisting on adopting them, for believing in her. That night, lying side by side, Ethan and Olivia talked for hours like they hadn't in years, sharing fears, hopes, and dreams for a future that now included two little girls who had arrived so unexpectedly and filled a void they hadn't even known existed. Across the hall, Lily and Daisy slept peacefully, their hands still clasped together, even in slumber. In just a few short months, they had journeyed from abandonment to shelter, from fear to safety, from silence to understanding. The Sterling estate, once a symbol of material success, now pulsed with something far more precious. Love. A love that transcended words, that communicated through gestures, looks, and touch. A love that proved sometimes the heart really can go beyond silence. Autumn painted the trees in the Sterling estate's sprawling gardens golden red. Ethan watched the leaves fall outside his home office window, a cup of coffee cooling in his hands. His focus, however, wasn't on the seasonal display. Something felt different, a subtle shift he couldn't quite name, but sensed in the very air of the house. The twins' laughter, which had become a comforting, constant presence, seemed more subdued lately, almost hesitant. A gentle tap on his shoulder pulled him from his reverie. It was Martha, the housekeeper, her usually serene face etched with worry. "Mr. Sterling," she began, her voice soft as if she were afraid of being overheard. "May I speak with you for a moment?" Ethan nodded, indicating the chair across from him. Martha sat, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "It's about the girls, sir, and, well, about Mrs. Sterling, too." Ethan leaned forward, giving her his undivided attention. "What is it, Martha?" The housekeeper hesitated, choosing her words with care. "The twins? They've been different lately. Quieter, more scared, I'd say, especially when they're alone with Mrs. Sterling." A cold unease trickled down Ethan's spine. "Scared? How?" Martha explained how she'd noticed Lily and Daisy flinching when Olivia entered a room, how they seemed reluctant to be alone with her. "And there's more," Martha continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "Mrs. Sterling, she's been letting a lot of the staff go, says she wants more privacy for the family." Ethan frowned. It was true the household staff seemed smaller, but he'd chalked it up to some reorganization Olivia had vaguely mentioned. "Yesterday," Martha went on, "I was passing by the girls' room and heard— well, I didn't exactly hear, but I sensed a commotion. When I went in, Mrs. Sterling was there, smiling as though nothing had happened. But the girls— they were trembling, sir, trembling and silently crying." Ethan's heart pounded. He wanted to dismiss Martha's concerns as the over-imaginings of a loyal employee, but the gravity in her tone and the earnestness in her eyes stopped him. "Thank you for telling me, Martha," he said finally. "I'll keep a closer eye on things." After the housekeeper left, Ethan remained in his office, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Olivia had transformed so beautifully over the past months, blossoming into the loving mother he always knew she could be. How could something be so wrong? Determined to observe more closely, Ethan started paying attention to the details he'd previously overlooked. He noticed how Lily and Daisy, once so open and smiling, now seemed to shrink away whenever Olivia drew near. He saw the anxious glances they exchanged when Olivia announced some new activity just for the three of them. One afternoon, returning home earlier than usual, Ethan heard muffled sounds coming from the music room. His heart pounding, he approached silently, inching closer. Through a crack in the door, he saw Olivia seated at the grand piano, her fingers flying across the keys in a furious flurry. The twins stood beside her, their small hands pressed against the vibrating wood, their faces contorted in a mixture of concentration and fear. "You need to feel the music," Olivia exclaimed, her voice strangely high-pitched. "Even if you can't hear it, you must feel it. Try again." Ethan watched in horror as Olivia forced the girls' hands onto the keys, making them play a jarring melody they couldn't hear. The twins' eyes were wide, silent tears streaming down their cheeks. He was about to burst in when Olivia abruptly stopped, pulling the girls into a crushing hug. "Oh, my darlings," she whispered, "you're doing so well. Mom is so proud of you." Ethan stepped back, confused and profoundly disturbed. What was happening? This wasn't the Olivia he knew, the loving mother who had flourished. In the days that followed, Ethan noticed more unsettling changes. Olivia canceled the regular sign language lessons with Sarah, claiming she would teach the girls herself from now on. Trips to the park, once a frequent joy, became rare. Olivia always had an excuse. The weather was turning, the girls felt slightly unwell. They needed their privacy. The mansion that had become a lively home began to close in on itself. Curtains remained drawn, the phone rarely rang, and Olivia seemed perpetually on edge, as if waiting for someone to show up and snatch the twins away. One evening, as Ethan worked in his office, he heard hurried footsteps in the hallway. Going to investigate, he found Lily alone, clearly terrified. "Hey, princess," he signed, kneeling to her level. "What's wrong?" Lily glanced around nervously, as if fearing they were being watched. Then she made a gesture that shattered Ethan's heart. She signed, "Mommy," and then, "Afraid." Before Ethan could respond, Olivia appeared at the end of the corridor. "Oh, there you are, Lily dear," she said, her voice sweet but underscored with a sharp tension. "Come along, it's time for your bath." Lily cast one last pleading glance at Ethan before Olivia led her away. Ethan stood there in the dim corridor, a knot of dread forming in his stomach. Something was very, very wrong, and he could no longer ignore it. That night, lying beside an Olivia who feigned sleep, Ethan stared at the ceiling, his mind churning with questions and fears. The twins, who had brought so much joy and transformation into their lives, now seemed trapped in a dark, unfolding mystery. What was Olivia doing when they were alone? Why did the once happy girls now seem perpetually anxious? Most importantly, how could he protect them without destroying the family they had built? Ethan knew he had to act, but he also feared what he might uncover. The silence that once defined the twins now seemed to permeate the entire house, heavy with secrets and unspoken fears. As the night wore on, Ethan made a decision. He would discover the truth, whatever the cost. Because deep in his heart, beyond the love he felt for Olivia and the fear of the unknown, was one unwavering certainty. Lily and Daisy needed him, and he would not let them down. The Sterling estate, once a sanctuary of peace and newfound joy, now felt shrouded in suffocating tension. Ethan walked the quiet halls, his footsteps echoing on the marble floors, feeling like a stranger in his own home. The smiling family photos on the walls now seemed like cruel masks, hiding dark secrets. One Saturday morning, Ethan decided to spend more time with the twins. Entering their room, he immediately noticed something was off. The shelves, once overflowing with children's books and small toys, were oddly bare. "Lily? Daisy?" he signed, calling to the girls who were playing quietly on the rug. "Where are your favorite books?" The twins exchanged a worried glance before Daisy timidly answered. "Mommy took them," she signed. "She said we needed new things." Ethan frowned. Olivia hadn't mentioned anything about redecorating or removing the girls' belongings. His curiosity piqued. He opened their closet, only to find it nearly empty, holding just a few sets of plain, basic clothes. His heart began to race. What was happening? Why would Olivia remove the twins' things without discussing it with him? In the following days, Ethan began to notice other strange behaviors from Olivia. She spent hours locked in the study, whispering on the phone. Whenever he entered a room where she was alone with the girls, Olivia would immediately shift her posture, as if caught doing something illicit. One afternoon, returning home early from work, Ethan found Olivia in a state of agitation, frantically rearranging the music room. "What are you doing, honey?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Olivia jumped, nearly knocking over a stack of sheet music. "Oh, Ethan! I didn't hear you come in. I was just thinking of restarting my piano lessons. You know, for the girls." Ethan studied his wife's face. There was something in her eyes, a mixture of manic determination and fear. "Olivia, I thought we agreed that forcing the girls to play piano wasn't a good idea." "I'm not forcing anyone," Olivia snapped, her voice an octave higher than usual. "They need stimulation, Ethan. We can't just let them fall behind because they're different." The word hung in the air, heavy with a meaning Ethan couldn't quite grasp. He wanted to argue, to say the twins were making wonderful progress, but something in Olivia's wild expression stopped him. That night, unable to sleep, Ethan decided to do something he never imagined he would. Using his connections, he discreetly arranged to have security cameras installed in key areas of the mansion. The idea of spying on his own family filled him with self-loathing, but his fear for the twins' safety overrode any ethical qualms. The cameras were installed the next day while Olivia took the girls to the doctor, another appointment she insisted on attending alone. Ethan watched the technician work, feeling like a trespasser in his own house. With the cameras operational, Ethan found himself consumed by a compulsive need to monitor the feeds. Hours of footage piled up, showing mostly mundane daily scenes. But there were moments, brief and chilling, that made his blood run cold. Olivia, usually so composed, would have sudden fits of rage when she was alone, throwing objects and muttering to herself. The twins, once so lively, now moved through the house like tiny ghosts, always glancing over their shoulders. One night, reviewing the day's recordings, Ethan saw something that left him frozen. Olivia was in the girls' room, rummaging through their drawers and closets. She grabbed something, a small journal Ethan recognized as one he'd given to Lily, and tucked it inside her robe before hurrying out. The mystery deepened, and so did Ethan's dread. What was Olivia searching for? Why did she feel the need to hide things from the girls and from him? The tension in the mansion was palpable. Mealtimes, once moments of shared joy, were now silent and uncomfortable affairs. Olivia talked too much, her voice artificially bright, while the twins barely touched their food. Several times Ethan tried to broach the subject with Olivia, but she always deflected, sometimes with anger, sometimes with tears. "You don't trust me?" she would ask, her eyes shining in a way Ethan didn't recognize. "After everything we've done? After how I've changed for these girls?" One morning, Ethan found Lily hiding in his office, trembling. When he approached, she signed frantically, "Daddy, please don't let Mommy take us away." Ethan's heart stopped. Take them away? What did Lily mean? Before he could ask more, he heard Olivia's footsteps in the hallway. Lily, panicking, hid behind the heavy drapes. Ethan barely had time to compose himself before Olivia entered, her face a mask of concern. "Ethan, have you seen Lily? She's disappeared, and we have an important appointment." Ethan hesitated, feeling Lily's desperate gaze on him from behind the curtain. "No, darling, I haven't. Maybe she's in the garden." Olivia nodded distractedly and left. As soon as the door closed, Lily ran into Ethan's arms, sobbing silently. In that moment, holding little Lily as she trembled in his arms, Ethan knew he couldn't pretend any longer. Something dark and twisted was happening under his roof, threatening to destroy the family he loved so dearly. With a heavy but resolute heart, Ethan realized he had to confront the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Because in the suffocating silence that now dominated the Sterling estate, the silent screams of Lily and Daisy were louder than any spoken word could ever be. A gray morning dawned over Boston, mirroring the bleak state of Ethan Sterling's mind. After sleepless nights and days of mounting dread, he decided he could no longer postpone the inevitable. He needed to uncover the truth, no matter how agonizing. Using the excuse of an urgent matter at the office, Ethan left work in the middle of the afternoon, his heart growing heavier with each mile that brought him closer to home. The gates of the estate had never seemed so imposing, so menacing. Parking silently at a side entrance, Ethan let himself in through a back door, determined not to alert anyone to his early return. The silence that greeted him was oppressive, almost tangible. Moving with careful steps through the familiar yet suddenly alien corridors, Ethan heard muffled sounds from upstairs. His heart pounded as he recognized Olivia's voice, though he couldn't make out the words. Ascending the stairs with measured tread, the sound grew clearer, emanating from the twins' room. Ethan approached, his hand hovering over the doorknob for a long moment before he turned it slowly. The scene that unfolded before him froze the blood in his veins. Olivia stood in the middle of the room, her face twisted with an almost manic determination. Lily and Daisy were on the floor, silent tears streaming down their pale faces. Torn pages of what Ethan recognized as the girls' journals lay scattered around them. "You have to forget!" Olivia screamed, her voice shrill. Forget everything that came before. I'm your mother now. Only me." The twins trembled visibly, their small hands clasped together in a desperate search for comfort. Then Olivia turned and saw Ethan in the doorway, her eyes widening with shock and guilt. "Ethan!" she gasped, her voice suddenly cloying and sweet, as if trying to mask what he had just witnessed. "You're home early, darling. The girls and I were just—" "What's going on here, Anne?" Ethan demanded, his voice trembling with contained rage as he stepped into the room, instinctively placing himself between his wife and the twins. Olivia took a step back, her eyes darting between Ethan and the girls. "Nothing, darling. We were just having a little chat about the past and the future." Ethan knelt, pulling Lily and Daisy into his arms. They clung to him instantly, as though their lives depended on it. He could feel their small bodies shaking. "Anne," he said, his voice now steady and cold, "what did you mean by forget everything that came before? Why are you destroying their journals?" Olivia's face contorted, shifting rapidly between fear, anger, and despair. "They don't need those memories, Ethan. We're their family now. Only us." Ethan stood slowly, still keeping the twins close. "Olivia, you're scaring them. This has to stop. Now." For a moment, Olivia seemed to collapse inward, her shoulders slumping. But then, as if a switch had been flipped, she straightened again, her eyes shining with an intensity that Ethan had never seen. "You don't understand, Ethan," she said, her voice dangerously calm. "I'm protecting our family. Those memories, that past, they only hurt the girls. I'm healing them." "Healing?" Ethan repeated, incredulous. "And you're traumatizing them." It was as though a dam had burst. Olivia began speaking rapidly, words pouring out in a torrent. "Don't you see? They need structure, discipline. I'm shaping them to be perfect, without the limitations of the past, without the burden of deafness. I can fix it, Ethan. I can make them hear, make them speak." Ethan was horrified as he finally grasped the terrifying extent of Olivia's obsession. "They don't need fixing, Olivia. They're perfect as they are." "No," Olivia screamed, stepping forward. The twins cowered behind Ethan. "You don't understand. I love them so much, Ethan, so much it hurts. And that's why I have to do this. For them? For us?" Ethan looked at his wife, the woman he thought he knew so well, and saw a stranger. Her eyes, once filled with love and compassion, now burned with a feverish, almost frantic light. "Anne," he said softly, as if speaking to a frightened animal, "you need help. This isn't love. It's an obsession. You're hurting the girls, hurting us all." For a brief, fleeting moment, Ethan caught a flicker of recognition in Olivia's eyes, as if she were surfacing from a deep, dark trance. But then the hardness returned. "You're against me," she whispered, inching toward the door. "All of you, but I'll prove I'm right. I'll save them, Thomas. I'll save our family." With those chilling words, Olivia bolted from the room, leaving Ethan stunned, holding the sobbing twins. In that moment, hugging Lily and Daisy tightly, Ethan realized the situation was far more dire than he had ever imagined. The woman he loved, the mother who had blossomed so wonderfully, now posed a real and imminent threat to the children they had vowed to protect. With a broken heart but a steely resolve, Ethan knew he had to act, and act quickly. The twins' safety was now his absolute priority. As he soothed them with gentle, reassuring gestures, his mind raced through the necessary next steps. The truth had been exposed, shocking and painful, but it was only the beginning. The battle for Lily and Daisy's safety and happiness had just begun, and Ethan was determined to protect them, no matter the cost. The silence after Olivia's sudden exit was deafening. Still holding the trembling twins close, Ethan took a deep breath, trying to calm his own racing heart. He knew the moment he had long dreaded had arrived. It was time to confront the truth, however painful. "Lily, Daisy," he signed gently, pulling back so the girls could see his hands. "I need you to be very brave right now. "Can you stay here quietly for a minute? I'm going to talk to Mommy." The twins nodded, their wide, frightened eyes locked on Ethan. He gave them one more hug before getting up, his heart heavy with the responsibility he felt. He found Olivia in the office, frantically rifling through drawers and cabinets. Papers and objects lay strewn on the floor, creating a scene of chaos that perfectly reflected her mental state. "Anne," he called softly, closing the door behind him. She spun around, her eyes wild and wide. "Thomas, good, you're here. I need... Anne, we need to talk," Ethan interrupted firmly, taking a step toward her. "There's no time to talk," Olivia exclaimed, her voice rising. "You don't understand, Thomas. I'm so close to curing them." Ethan shuddered. "Curing them? Anne, the girls aren't sick. They're deaf, yes, but that's not an illness." Olivia paused in her frantic search, staring at Ethan with an intensity that made him step back. "You're wrong. They can be more, Thomas. They can be perfect. I can make them perfect." "What do you mean by make them perfect?" Ethan asked, dreading the answer. Olivia began pacing, gesturing passionately. "I've done my research, Thomas. There are treatments, therapies. We can do surgeries, implants. They will hear. They will speak. They'll be like us." The horror of realization struck Ethan like a blow. "Anne, have you been forcing the girls into treatments?" "Not forcing," Olivia shouted, her voice breaking. "Helping, so I'm helping them." Ethan took another step closer, his hands outstretched in a calming gesture. "And, sweetheart, you need to stop. This isn't healthy. You're scaring the girls. You're hurting us." For a moment, Olivia seemed to waver. Her eyes filled with tears, and she fell to her knees, sobbing. "I just want the best for them, Thomas. I want them to be happy, to have a normal life." Ethan knelt beside her, placing a hesitant hand on her shoulder. "I know, Anne. I know you love them. But what you're doing, it isn't love. It's obsession." The words seemed to jolt Olivia like an electric shock. She pulled away, her eyes once again hard and determined. "No, you're wrong. Everyone's wrong. I'm the only one who truly cares about their future." She rose quickly, rushing to the desk and yanking open a drawer. Ethan watched in horror as she pulled out a small medical kit. "Watch that, Anne?" he asked, his voice shaky. "The solution," she replied, an eerie smile forming on her lips. "I was going to wait, do this when you were traveling, but now you'll see. You'll understand." Ethan positioned himself in front of the door. "Anna, whatever you're thinking of doing, please stop. Think about the girls. They're scared. They need us." "They need to be cured," Olivia shouted, stepping toward the door. "Get out of my way, Thomas. Don't make me—" She didn't finish her sentence, but the implied threat hung in the air. Ethan's heart constricted at seeing the woman he loved transformed into someone he barely recognized. "Anne, please," he pleaded, his voice breaking. "Think about what you're doing. This isn't you. The Anne I know, the one who became such a wonderful mother to Sophie and Claire, would never do this." For a moment, Ethan saw a flicker of recognition in Olivia's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by an iron resolve. "You leave me no choice at Thomas," she said, her voice dangerously calm. Before he could react, Olivia grabbed a heavy vase from the table and hurled it at him. Ethan dodged, and it shattered against the wall behind him. Taking advantage of the distraction, Olivia bolted for the door, shoving Ethan aside. He tried to grab her, but she struggled violently. "Anne, stop!" Ethan shouted, fighting to restrain her without harming her. "Let me go!" she screamed, her nails scratching Ethan's face. "They need me. I have to save them." In the hallway, drawn by the commotion, Lily and Daisy appeared, their faces pale with fear. Upon seeing them, Olivia seemed to gain renewed strength. "My girls!" she gasped, extending her arms toward them. "Come with Mommy. We'll make you better." The twins backed away, clutching each other, terror evident in their eyes. In that moment, seeing the raw fear on Lily and Daisy's faces, Ethan made a painful decision. With a swift movement, he pushed Olivia back into the office and locked the door, leaving her inside. Olivia's screams and pounding against the door echoed through the house, merging with the twins' silent sobs and Ethan's ragged breathing. Holding the girls close, Ethan knew the situation had escalated beyond his control. The woman he loved was lost in a dangerous delusion, and the children they'd vowed to protect were terrified. With a broken heart but unwavering resolve, Ethan picked up the phone. It was time to seek outside help. Lily and Daisy's safety depended on it. As he dialed, Olivia's screams continued, a chaotic symphony of rage and despair that would forever scar their family's memories. The sound of splintering wood echoed through the Sterling estate, followed by a scream that chilled Ethan's blood. In a moment of distraction, while he was on the phone with authorities, Olivia had broken down the office door. Ethan sprinted down the hall, heart in his throat, only to see Olivia disappear into the twins' room, dragging Lily and Daisy with her. The click of the lock rang out like a death sentence. "Anne!" Ethan yelled, pounding on the door. "Anne, please, open up. Let's talk about this." On the other side, he could hear the muffled sobs of the girls and Olivia's frantic voice. "Stay away, Thomas. You don't understand. I have to do this. I have to save them." Ethan pressed his forehead against the cold wood, fighting the panic threatening to consume him. "And please, think about what you're doing. You're scaring them. They need us to be calm." For a moment, there was silence. Then Olivia's shaky, unsure voice. I just want the best for them, Thomas. Why can't you see that?" Ethan took a deep breath, trying to keep his voice steady. "I know you love them, Anne. I know you want the best. But this isn't the way. Please, open the door. Let's talk, all of us, together." As he tried to negotiate, Ethan heard the distant sound of sirens approaching. He had asked for discretion when he called for help, fearing a visible police presence might agitate Olivia further, but time was running out. "Anne," he tried again, "the girls need you. They need the loving mother you've been. Do you remember how they smiled when you first read them that story in sign language? That's the Anne they need now." A muffled sob came from inside the room. "I only wanted them to be normal, Thomas. I wanted to give them everything they never had." Ethan's heart twisted. Beneath Olivia's obsession lay a deep, distorted love and a genuine desire to help, but at some point that love had become something dangerous. "They are normal, Anne," he said softly. "They're perfect just the way they are, and you've already given them the most important things: love, safety, a family." Soft footsteps down the corridor signaled the arrival of professional help. Ethan saw Inspector Michael O'Connell, a serious man with sharp eyes, approach quietly, accompanied by a woman he introduced as Dr. Jennifer Hayes, a negotiator. He gestured for them to wait, not wanting to disrupt his fragile dialogue with Olivia. "Anne," Ethan called again, "do you remember the day we brought the girls home? How scared we were, not knowing what to do? But we learned together. We grew together. We can overcome this too, as a family." There was a tense silence, broken only by the occasional sobs of the twins. Then Olivia's voice, almost a whisper. "I'm afraid, Thomas. What if I'm not a good mother to them? What if I'm not enough?" Ethan felt a wave of relief hearing Olivia's vulnerability. It was a glimpse of the woman he knew emerging from the swirl of obsession. "You're more than enough, my love," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Sophie and Claire love you exactly as you are, just like I do. We are a family, imperfect, sometimes confused, but united by love." There was a sound of movement inside, and then, to Ethan's immense relief, the lock clicked. The door opened slowly, revealing Olivia, eyes red and swollen, holding Lily and Daisy's trembling hands. Ethan stepped forward, opening his arms. Olivia hesitated for a moment, then with a broken sob, moved into his embrace, pulling the girls in as well. "I'm sorry," she murmured through tears. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Ethan held her tightly, feeling the small hands of the twins gripping his legs. For a moment, They stayed like that, a family united in the midst of chaos. Gently, Dr. Hayes approached. "Mrs. Lauren," she said softly, "my name is Elise. I'm here to help. Could we talk for a bit?" Olivia looked up, her eyes wide as she took in the doctor and the paramedics. For an instant, Ethan feared she might panic again, but then, slowly, Olivia nodded. I think I need help," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Hayes smiled kindly. "That's very brave of you to say. We'll take this one step at a time, all right?" As the doctor led Olivia aside for a private conversation, paramedics moved in to check on the twins. Ethan knelt, hugging Lily and Daisy firmly. "It's all right now," he signed, his fingers shaking. "You were both so brave. Daddy is very proud." The girls clung to him, their small bodies still trembling slightly. Ethan knew there was a long road ahead. Traumas had been created, trust had been shaken. But in that moment, feeling his daughter's warmth in his arms, he allowed himself a moment of relief. Hours later, with Olivia voluntarily heading to a psychiatric evaluation and the twins finally asleep in their own bed, exhausted by the day's stress, Ethan found himself alone in the living room. The mansion, once a symbol of his success and happiness, now felt strangely empty and cold. Picking up a photo of his family taken in happier times, with all of them smiling for the camera, Ethan felt hot tears roll down his cheeks. The day had been a nightmare, but also an awakening. The perfection Olivia had so desperately sought did not exist. The true beauty of a family lay in its imperfections, in how they grew and learned together, overcoming challenges. As night fell, Ethan made a silent promise. He would fight for his family. He would fight to heal the wounds, rebuild trust, and find a new balance. Because in the end, the love that bound them, imperfect, sometimes painful, but always real, was stronger than any obstacle. With that resolution in mind, Ethan finally allowed himself to rest, knowing that dawn would bring new challenges, but also new hopes for the Sterling family. The Sterling estate, once a symbol of elegance and tranquility, was now surrounded by police cruisers and ambulances, their lights flashing quietly in the Boston night. Inspector Michael O'Connell, a middle-aged man with sharp eyes and a serious expression, calmly and efficiently led the rescue operation. Inside the house, Ethan sat on the living room couch, his face pale and tense, as Inspector O'Connell explained the situation. "Mr. Lauren," O'Connell began, his voice low and controlled, "we understand your wife is in a fragile emotional state and that the children might be in danger. Our priority is ensuring everyone's safety." Ethan nodded, feeling both grateful for the help and guilty that it had come to this. "What can we do?" "We have a specialist negotiator, Dr. Martin Leifer, who will attempt to establish communication with your wife," O'Connell explained. "But we need your help, Mr. Lauren. You know your wife better than anyone." At that moment, Dr. Jennifer Hayes, an empathetic woman in her early 40s, approached. "Mr. Lauren, can you tell me exactly what happened before your wife locked herself in with the girls?" Ethan took a deep breath, recounting the chaotic events of the last few hours. He explained Olivia's escalating obsession with curing the twins, her erratic behavior, and the confrontation that led to the current standoff. Dr. Hayes listened carefully, occasionally jotting down notes. "And the girls? They really can't hear?" "Yes, Sophie and CLA are deaf," Ethan confirmed. We communicate through sign language." A spark of interest lit Dr. Hayes's eyes. "That might be helpful. Mr. Laurent, would you be able to communicate with the girls without your wife noticing?" Ethan considered this for a moment. "Yes, I think so. But how?" "We'll position you so the girls can see you through the bedroom window," Dr. Hayes explained. "You can use signs to reassure them, maybe even instruct them on how we can help." The plan went into action quickly. Heart pounding, Ethan was escorted outside to the garden, carefully stationed beneath the window of the room where Olivia and the twins were barricaded. Meanwhile, Dr. Hayes approached the bedroom door. "Mrs. Lauren," she called softly, "my name is Martin. I'm here to help. Can we talk?" Inside the room, Olivia clutched the twins close, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Go away," she shouted. "You don't understand. I have to protect them." While Dr. Hayes tried to calm Olivia, Ethan focused on the twins. Through the partially covered window, he could see Lily and Daisy's frightened faces. Slowly, carefully, he began signing. "It's all right," he signed. "Daddy is here. You're both very brave." The girls' eyes grew wide at the sight of him, relief and fear mingling in their expressions. "Mommy is scared," Ethan continued. "She needs help. Can you help?" Lily and Daisy exchanged glances, then nodded hesitantly. Inside the room, Dr. Hayes carried on her gentle approach. "Anne, I know you love your daughters. I know you want the best for them. But what's happening now is frightening them. We can work together to help them." Olivia hesitated, her determination visibly wavering. I just want them to be happy, to have a normal life." "They can have a happy, fulfilled life exactly as they are," Dr. Hayes assured her. "And with the love you have for them, I'm sure they're already on the right path." Meanwhile, Ethan continued silently communicating with the twins. "When I give the signal, I want you to hug Mommy, really tight, okay? Show her how much you love her." The girls nodded, understanding the importance of their mission. Tension hovered in the air. Dr. Hayes, sensing a breakthrough, took a step closer. "Anne, how about unlocking the door so we can talk more openly? I'm sure Thomas is worried about you and wants to see that you and the girls are all right." There was a moment of agonizing silence. Then, to everyone's relief, they heard the click of the lock being released. The door opened slowly, revealing Olivia, pale and trembling, the twins clinging to her. Ethan, who had rushed back inside, gave the subtle cue they had agreed upon. At that instant, the girls wrapped Olivia in a tight hug, their small hands forming signs for love and family. The unexpected gesture took Olivia by surprise, and she sank to her knees, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Oh, my babies," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Ethan approached carefully, joining the group hug. "It's all right, Anne," he murmured. "We're here, all of us." Dr. Hayes watched the scene with a mix of relief and compassion. With a discreet signal, she indicated for the paramedics to come closer. "Anne," she said kindly, "you've been very brave today, but I think you could benefit from some extra help. What do you say we go somewhere you can rest and talk to professionals who can help you work through all of this?" For a moment, fear flashed in Olivia's eyes, but then she looked at the twins, at Ethan, and finally nodded. I think I need help," she admitted quietly. Gently and respectfully, the paramedics approached to assess Olivia and the children. Ethan stayed by his wife's side the entire time, holding her hand as she was prepared for transport. Before she was taken away, Olivia looked at Ethan, her eyes filled with regret and fear. "You'll take care of them, promise?" Ethan nodded, tears in his eyes. "Always, and we'll be waiting for you, Anne. All of us." As the ambulance pulled away, carrying Olivia off to the treatment she so desperately needed, Ethan hugged Lily and Daisy. The worst was over, but he knew the road to healing would be long and challenging. Gazing at his daughters, Ethan felt a mix of exhaustion and determination. The night had tested their love, courage, and resilience, but it had also shown the power of communication, empathy, and unconditional love. With a deep sigh, Ethan guided the girls back into the mansion. The new day would bring fresh challenges, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a glimmer of hope. Together, as a family, they would face whatever lay ahead. The days following the incident were a whirlwind of emotions and responsibilities for Ethan Sterling. The mansion, once a place of peace and joy, now felt strangely empty without Olivia's presence. The silence that had once been comforting now weighed like an oppressive cloak over the fragmented family. Ethan found himself torn between visits to the psychiatric hospital where Olivia was admitted, meetings with lawyers to handle the possible legal ramifications of the incident, and the most important job of all, caring for Lily and Daisy, who were visibly shaken by the recent events. One particularly gray morning, Ethan found himself in the office of Dr. Eleanor Vance, the psychiatrist who had been instrumental during the crisis and now oversaw Olivia's treatment. "How is she, doctor?" Ethan asked, his voice betraying the accumulated fatigue of many sleepless nights. Dr. Vance adjusted her glasses, sympathy in her gaze. "Anne is responding well to the initial treatment, Mr. Loren, but it's crucial to understand this will be a long process. She's not only coping with the recent episode, but also with deep-rooted traumas and insecurities." Ethan nodded, feeling a lump in his throat. "And what about the girls? Will they be able to see her?" "For now, we think it best to keep visits restricted to you," the doctor replied. "Anne needs to stabilize before handling the complexities of her relationship with the twins. Speaking of which, how are Sophie and CLA doing?" Ethan exhaled deeply. "They're scared, confused. They've been having nightmares. I feel lost, doctor." "How can I help them move on?" Dr. Vance offered a gentle smile. "This is why I recommended Dr. Amelie Rousseau. She specializes in child therapy and has experience working with deaf children. I believe she can be a great help to the girls and to you as well, Mr. Loren." That same afternoon, Ethan took Lily and Daisy to their first session with Dr. Abigail Reed. Her office was warm and inviting, decorated with bright colors and carefully chosen toys. The therapist, a middle-aged woman with a warm smile, greeted the girls in fluent sign language, immediately putting them more at ease. Watching their initial interaction, Ethan felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. It hurt to see his daughters needing professional help to cope with trauma, but he was grateful they had access to it. After the session, Dr. Reed asked Ethan to step in for a private conversation. "Mr. Loren," she began, her tone serious yet kind. "During our session, I noticed something intriguing about Sophie and Claire, something I believe needs further investigation." Ethan felt his heart speed up. "What is it, doctor?" "Well, during some of our exercises, the girls seem to react to certain sounds in a way that isn't typical of completely deaf children," Dr. Reed explained. "I'd like to suggest more thorough hearing tests." The revelation struck Ethan like lightning. "Are you saying they can hear?" Dr. Reed raised her hands in a calming gesture. "I don't want to raise false hopes, Mr. Loren, but there's a possibility Sophie and Claire have residual hearing that wasn't detected before. Or maybe the trauma they experienced before you found them led to selective mutism, which has also affected their response to auditory stimuli." Ethan felt his world spin. The possibility that the twins might have some degree of hearing or that their silence was a product of trauma rather than profound deafness was overwhelming. In the days that followed, Lily and Daisy underwent a series of tests and evaluations. Ethan observed anxiously through each procedure, his heart swinging between hope and fear. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the results arrived. Dr. Samuel Peterson, a specialist in pediatric audiology, sat down with Ethan to discuss the findings. "Mr. Loren," he began, his professional tone calm, "the results are frankly surprising. Sophie and CLA are not as profoundly deaf as was initially believed. They have a significant amount of residual hearing in both ears." Tears pricked Ethan's eyes. "But how, Matt? Why have they never—" Dr. Peterson continued. "Based on the exams and the history we've been given, we believe the girls developed a form of selective mutism as a response to severe trauma. They effectively shut down their ability to process sounds and speech as a coping mechanism." Ethan's mind reeled at the implications. "So, they can learn to talk, to hear normally?" "With proper therapy and a lot of support, yes, there's a good chance," the doctor replied. "But it's important to understand this will be a long and challenging process. The trauma that caused this condition needs to be dealt with carefully." That night, after putting the twins to bed, Ethan sat in the living room, the silent house echoing his tumultuous thoughts. The irony of the situation did not escape him. Olivia, in her obsession to cure the twins, had never imagined they might actually have the potential to hear and speak. With a heavy sigh, Ethan picked up the phone. He knew he needed to share this news with Olivia, but he feared her reaction. His conversation with Dr. Vance was brief but intense. They agreed Olivia would be informed gradually as part of her therapeutic process. As he prepared for bed, Ethan reflected on the remarkable journey his family had taken. A chance encounter on a stormy night had led to a profound love, a devastating crisis, and now this startling revelation. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in weeks, Ethan felt a spark of true hope. Lily and Daisy had a long way to go, so did Olivia. But armed with the truth and determined to provide all the support they needed, Ethan felt ready to face whatever lay ahead. The silence that had defined so much of their lives was about to be broken, not just by sound, but by the promise of healing, understanding, and a deeper love. With that resolution, Ethan finally allowed himself a peaceful sleep, knowing dawn would bring fresh challenges, but also new possibilities for the Sterling family. Morning arrived at the Sterling estate with a quiet promise of change. Ethan, already awake for hours, watched the sunrise from the terrace, his mind swirling with thoughts and emotions. The revelations of the past few days weighed on him. Lily and Daisy were not actually deaf, but deeply traumatized. Their silence was not a physical condition, but an emotional fortress built for protection. With a heavy sigh, Ethan went back inside, preparing for what would undoubtedly be one of the most challenging days of his life. Under Dr. Reed's guidance, they would begin the process of breaking down the silence that had defined the twins for so long. When Lily and Daisy came down for breakfast, Ethan greeted them with a warm smile, though his eyes betrayed his apprehension. "Good morning, my princesses," he signed, as he did every morning, but today his hands trembled slightly. The girls returned his sign, their faces curious about their father's obvious tension. After breakfast, Ethan led them to the living room, where Dr. Reed was already waiting. She greeted the twins with a gentle smile, inviting them to sit on the soft rug surrounded by carefully chosen toys. "Sophie, CLA," she began, both speaking and signing with gentle movements. "Today, we're going to play a special game. A game of sounds and words. It's all right if you don't feel like participating or if you want to stop at any point. We're here to help and support you, okay?" The twins exchanged anxious glances, but slowly nodded. Ethan, sitting nearby, felt his heart race. Dr. Reed started with simple sounds, a small bell ringing, the soft roar of a plush toy. To Ethan's shock and delight, the girls reacted, sometimes with a slight jump, other times with a fleeting spark of recognition in their eyes. Gradually, the therapist introduced simple words, speaking clearly while showing corresponding objects. "Balo," she said, holding up a bright-colored ball. "Flower," while displaying a plastic daisy. The moment that changed everything came when Dr. Reed held up a small photograph of Ethan. "Daddy?" she said gently. Lily, the more daring of the two, furrowed her brow in concentration, her lips moving silently as though testing the word. Then, in the faintest whisper, "Die." Time seemed to stand still. Ethan felt tears spring to his eyes, his breath catching in his throat. Daisy, encouraged by her sister, repeated the sound. "Daddy!" Dr. Reed maintained her professional composure, but her eyes shone with emotion. "Very good, girls," she praised in both signs and words. "You're very brave." Ethan wanted to rush over and hug them, to tell them how much he loved them, but he knew he needed to be patient, to let them progress at their own pace. In the days that followed, Lily and Daisy took hesitant yet firm steps toward the world of sounds and spoken words. Each new word was a victory, each sound a revelation. Water. Please. Thank you. Simple expressions that for any other family would be routine, but for the Sterlings were daily miracles. However, with progress came new challenges. As the twins opened themselves to a world of sound, long-buried memories began to surface. Nightmares became frequent, the girls waking up screaming, a sound that was both terrifying and miraculous to Ethan. It was during one of these difficult nights that the truth of the twins' past began to emerge. Ethan was comforting Lily after a particularly intense nightmare when she whispered between sobs, "Bad man, shouted a lot." Ethan's heart tightened. Gently he asked, "Who shouted, sweetheart?" "The man. Before you, Daddy," Lily answered, her voice quivering. "He heard us. He made scary noises." The puzzle pieces began to fit. Ethan remembered the rainy night he found the twins, alone and terrified. How many horrors had they faced before that? In subsequent sessions with Dr. Reed, more details emerged. The twins had been abused, exposed to constant screaming and violence. Their silence had been not only a defense against the horrible sounds they experienced, but also a way to become invisible, to avoid attracting their abusers' attention. Learning these truths devastated Ethan. Countless nights he spent awake, tormented by visions of what his daughters had endured. Yet, along with the pain came a fierce determination to help them heal, protect them, and love them unconditionally. Their path to recovery took on a new urgency. Ethan worked tirelessly with Dr. Reed and a team of specialists to create a healing environment for Lily and Daisy. Speech therapy combined with play therapy and art therapy gave the girls safe ways to process their experiences. During this time, Ethan also dealt with Olivia's reaction to these revelations. In carefully monitored visits to the psychiatric facility, he gradually shared the discoveries about the twins. Olivia's response was a complex blend of shock, guilt, and, surprisingly, relief. Somehow I knew there was more," Olivia said in one of those visits, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I wanted so badly to help them, but I did everything wrong." Ethan squeezed his wife's hand, feeling a combination of love and forgiveness. "We all made mistakes, Anne. What matters is that we now know how to really help them." As the weeks turned into months, the Sterling estate was once again filled with sound, hesitant laughter, whispered words, even gentle songs crooned in shy, unsteady voices. Every new sound was a victory, every spoken word another step toward healing. One night, as Ethan tucked the girls into bed, Daisy tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy," she said, her voice still a bit rough from lack of use. "Tell a story." Ethan felt his heart overflow with love and gratitude. "Of course, sweetheart," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "Which story would you like to hear?" "Ours," Sophie chimed in, snuggling closer. "Tell us how you found us." As Ethan began recounting that rainy night that changed their lives forever, he realized they were writing a new chapter together, one of healing, resilience, and unconditional love. The silence was broken now, and though the road ahead would still be long and sometimes hard, Ethan knew that together, he, Anne, Sophie, and CLA, they would find their voice and their strength. The Sterling family was finally learning to speak the language of love, healing, and hope. Fall arrived in Boston with golden and red hues, mirroring the profound changes taking place inside the Sterling estate. Leaves drifted lazily to the ground in the garden where Lily and Daisy played under Ethan's watchful eye. Their laughter, once so rare, now filled the air more and more often. "Daddy, look!" Lily shouted, her voice still slightly hesitant but full of excitement. She had built a small tower of colorful leaves. Ethan smiled, amazed at his daughter's progress. Just a few months ago, a shout of joy like that would have been unthinkable. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," he replied, keenly aware of how precious each verbal interaction was. Therapy sessions with Dr. Reed had become the family's focal point, taking place 3 times a week. The twins immersed themselves in a world of therapeutic games, speech exercises, and activities tailored to help them process their past trauma. Ethan watched with a mix of pride and heartache as Lily and Daisy, through games and drawings, revealed glimpses of their earlier experiences. Dolls representing bad people were banished to time out, while father figures were depicted as heroic saviors. "It's normal for them to project a lot onto you right now," Dr. Reed explained during one of Ethan's parent counseling sessions. "You represent safety and unconditional love, but be careful not to put too much pressure on yourself to be perfect." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. Sometimes I'm afraid I'll do something wrong and traumatize them even more," he admitted. Dr. Reed smiled gently. "Thomas G., the fact that you worry so much already shows you're on the right track. The key is consistency, love, and patience. And don't forget to take care of yourself, too." Following the therapist's advice, Ethan began setting aside time for his own well-being. Long walks in the park, meditation sessions, and even some therapy sessions for adults to process his own fears and feelings. At home, the routine adapted to the twins' evolving needs. Evenings, once silent, were now filled with bedtime stories, lullabies hummed softly, and whispered conversations. Ethan learned to recognize the girls' signs of anxiety, responding with calm and reassurance. "It's all right to be scared," he would say softly when a nightmare startled one of them awake. "But remember, you're safe now. Daddy's here." Gradually, the nighttime panic attacks became less frequent. Lily and Daisy began sleeping better, their dreams increasingly free from the shadows of the past. The progress wasn't limited to the twins. Many miles away, in the psychiatric hospital where Olivia was staying, another healing journey was underway. Ethan visited regularly, watching with relief and hope as changes took shape in his wife. The frantic, obsessive look had given way to a reflective calm. Therapy sessions and proper medication were helping Olivia confront her own demons. "How are the girls?" Olivia would invariably ask during each visit, her tone a mixture of love and apprehension. Ethan, guided by the medical team, carefully shared Lily and Daisy's progress. "They're talking more every day," he mentioned one time. "Claire even asked to hear music yesterday." Olivia's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry for everything, Thomas, for not seeing what they really needed." Ethan held her hand, feeling that familiar blend of love and forgiveness. "We're all learning, Anne. The important thing is that we're on the right track now." As Olivia's treatment progressed, the possibility of a family reunion came under discussion. Dr. Vance, who oversaw Olivia's case, brought up the topic gently during a meeting with Ethan. "Anne has made significant progress," the doctor explained. "We believe she's ready to begin a gradual reintegration, but it must be done carefully, especially considering the twins' delicate situation." Ethan nodded, torn between anxiety and hope. "How do we proceed?" Dr. Vance outlined a cautious plan. First, supervised video calls between Olivia and the twins, followed by short monitored visits at the hospital. Only if all went well would Olivia begin brief visits to the mansion. Preparing for this crucial moment involved the entire support team. Dr. Reed worked intensively with Lily and Daisy, helping them articulate their feelings about their mother and preparing them for the reunion. "Mommy was sick," Ethan explained gently to the girls during one of these preparatory sessions. "But she's getting better now, and she loves you both very much." The girls' reactions were mixed. Daisy seemed eager, while Lily remained more cautious. "Will she still make us listen to loud music?" Lily asked, her voice trembling slightly. Ethan's heart squeezed. "No, sweetheart. Mommy understands now that wasn't good for you. She just wants love and hugs, if you're ready for that." The first video call was tense and emotional. Olivia, visibly nervous, gave a shy smile at the camera. "Hello, my little ones," she said softly. Lily and Daisy, perched on Ethan's lap, waved hesitantly. The conversation was brief and somewhat awkward, but it was a start. In the weeks that followed, the calls became more frequent and relaxed. The twins began sharing small stories from their daily lives, while Olivia listened with genuine interest, asking caring questions and offering words of encouragement. Finally, the day for the first hospital visit arrived. Ethan drove there with the girls, his heart pounding. In Olivia's room, decorated with artwork the girls had sent, the family reunited for the first time in months. The encounter was filled with conflicting emotions. There were tears, hesitant hugs, and many words of love and regret. Following her guidance, Olivia remained calm and welcoming, allowing the twins to set the pace of interaction. As they were about to leave, Daisy surprised everyone by turning to Olivia and clearly saying, "See you soon, Mommy. I love you." The room fell silent for a moment as they all processed those simple words. Olivia, tears in her eyes, answered gently, "I love you too, my dear. Thank you." On the drive back home, Ethan reflected on how far they had come and how much lay ahead. Healing wasn't a destination, but a continuous journey. There would be tough days ahead, moments of doubt, and possibly setbacks. But watching Lily and Daisy doze peacefully in the back seat, Ethan felt a wave of hope. They were making progress, step by step, word by word, hug by hug. And together, as a family, they would keep forging down the path of healing, love, and understanding. Morning dawned with a gentle mist over Boston, as if the city itself sought to create a welcoming atmosphere for the crucial moment at hand. In the Sterling estate, Ethan rose before the alarm, his stomach in knots with both anxiety and hope. Today would be the first time Olivia returned home since the incident for a supervised visit with the twins. While preparing breakfast, Ethan mentally recited the instructions from Dr. Reed and Dr. Vance. The visit would be short, just a few hours, and both the twins' therapist and Olivia's psychiatrist would be present to ensure it went smoothly. Lily and Daisy came down the stairs hand in hand, their faces mirroring a blend of excitement and nervousness. Ethan greeted them with an encouraging smile. "Good morning, my princesses," he said, helping them settle at the table. "You remember what we talked about? Mommy's special visit today." Daisy nodded timidly, while Lily bit her lip before asking, "Mommy's coming home?" "Yes, sweetheart," Ethan confirmed gently. "But remember, it's just a short visit, and Dr. Russo will be here the whole time." The following hours were a whirlwind of preparations. Ethan made sure the house looked welcoming, removing anything that might trigger painful memories. The twins insisted on making welcome cards for Olivia, a gesture that filled Ethan's heart with emotion. At exactly 2 p.m., the doorbell rang. Ethan took a deep breath, gave the girls one last reassuring look, and opened the door. Olivia stood there, looking both familiar and unfamiliar. Her face, once so strained by obsession and anxiety, now showed a cautious serenity, yet her eyes betrayed a deep well of hope and apprehension. "Welcome home," Ethan said softly, extending his hand. Olivia accepted his gesture, a shy smile flickering across her lips. "Thank you, Thomas. It's good to be home." Their moment was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Reed, who was already inside with the twins. She stepped into the hallway. "Let's take this slowly," she reminded them kindly. "One step at a time." Olivia walked hesitantly into the living room. Lily and Daisy, still seated on the sofa, looked up, their eyes wide. For a moment, silence filled the air, laden with memories and unspoken emotions. Daisy broke the stalemate, slowly standing and walking toward Olivia, handing her the welcome card she had made. "Well, welcome, Mommy," she said, her voice nearly a whisper. Olivia knelt to be at eye level, tears glistening. "Thank you, my love," she managed, accepting the card with trembling hands. "May I give you a hug?" Daisy hesitated briefly, then nodded. The hug was brief but genuine, and when they pulled apart, both had tears in their eyes. Lily watched, her face reflecting a swirl of emotions. Ethan sat beside her, offering silent support. Slowly, Lily also approached, holding out her own card. "It's very pretty, Sophie," Olivia praised softly. "You've always been so talented at drawing." A small smile tugged at Lily's lips. "Thank you," she murmured. At Dr. Reed's suggestion, they all sat down, beginning a carefully guided conversation. Olivia, following her therapist's advice, let the girls lead the interaction, answering their questions with honesty and sensitivity. "Are you still sick, Mommy?" Daisy asked at one point. Olivia exchanged a quick glance with Dr. Vance before replying, "I was sick, yes, sweetheart, but I'm getting better every day, and I'm learning how to be a better mommy to you." Lily, who had remained mostly silent, finally spoke up. "You won't make us do things we don't want anymore?" The question hit Olivia like a punch to the gut. Ethan instinctively leaned forward, ready to intervene, but Dr. Reed signaled him to wait. Olivia took a deep breath, tears spilling freely now. "No, Sophie, never again. I'm so very sorry for everything I did. I thought I was helping, but I was wrong. So wrong. You two are perfect just the way you are, and I love you unconditionally." The silence that followed was heavy, charged with emotion. Then, to everyone's surprise, Lily stood up and walked to Olivia. For a moment, she just looked into her mother's eyes. Slowly, she opened her arms. The hug that followed was a profound moment of healing. Olivia held Lily gently, her quiet sobs shaking them both. Daisy joined in, and for several precious minutes, mother and daughters reconnected in a way that went beyond words. Ethan watched, tears on his own face. Dr. Reed placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "This is a good start," she murmured. As the afternoon went on, the atmosphere in the living room gradually lightened. Olivia listened intently to the girls' stories of therapy, new interests, and progress in speaking. Ethan noticed how cautious she was not to push, letting them share at their own pace. When it was time for Olivia to leave, a wave of tension resurfaced. The twins, now somewhat accustomed again to their mother's presence, seemed reluctant to let her go. "I'll come back for another visit soon," Olivia promised, her voice soft but firm. "And we can keep doing video calls if you'd like." Lily and Daisy nodded, their expressions a mix of sadness and hope. As Ethan escorted Olivia and Dr. Vance to the door, he felt a surge of conflicting emotions. There was still a long road ahead, but today they had taken a crucial step toward healing. "Thank you, Thomas," Olivia said softly before leaving, "for not giving up on our family." Ethan merely nodded, a knot in his throat preventing him from speaking. He watched as Olivia got into the car, giving one last wave to the girls peering out from the window. Back inside, Ethan hugged Lily and Daisy. "You both were very brave today," he said, kissing the tops of their heads. "Daddy," Daisy asked in a small voice, "will Mommy come back home one day?" Ethan exchanged a look with Dr. Reed before replying carefully, "Maybe, sweetheart. Let's take it one step at a time, okay? What's important is that we're all working together to feel better and be happy." That night, as he tucked the girls into bed, Ethan reflected on the intense day. The road to reconciliation and forgiveness would be long and, at times, painful. There would be tough days ahead, moments of doubt, and maybe even setbacks. But today, they had taken the first hesitant steps toward reunification. In those steps, Ethan saw a glimmer of hope, the promise that with love, patience, and understanding, the Sterling family could not only heal, but become stronger than ever. Spring arrived in Boston, carrying with it a promise of renewal that resonated deeply within the Sterling estate. After months of intensive treatment, supervised visits, and a painstaking reconciliation process, the day Ethan had both longed for and feared finally arrived. Olivia was coming home. The morning began early, with Ethan double-checking every detail in the house. The twins, Lily and Daisy, now 7 years old, helped in their own way by placing fresh flowers in vases and hanging welcome home banners they'd lovingly created. "Daddy," Daisy called, her voice clear and confident in a way that still surprised him. "Do you think Mommy will like the decorations?" Ethan smiled, kneeling to meet his daughter's gaze. "I'm sure she'll love them, sweetheart. You both did an amazing job." Lily, always the more cautious, inched closer. What if things get weird again? Ethan's heart tightened. Even after all their progress, the fear still lurked. "Do you remember what Dr. Reed taught us? We'll take it one day at a time, together. And if something worries us, we'll talk about it, okay?" The girls nodded, exchanging a look that spoke volumes about their shared bond and mutual support. At exactly 11 a.m., the sound of a car pulling into the driveway caused everyone to freeze momentarily. Ethan exhaled, gave the twins one last reassuring smile, and went to open the door. Olivia was there, standing on the threshold with a small suitcase by her side. She looked simultaneously familiar and different. Her face, once haunted by obsession, now held a cautious serenity. However, her eyes shone with a mix of hope and apprehension. "Welcome back," Ethan said softly, extending his hand. Olivia took it, a tentative smile forming. "Thank you, Thomas. It's good to be home." Their moment was interrupted by quick footsteps, and suddenly Lily and Daisy were there, their faces reflecting a whirl of emotions. "Mommy!" Daisy exclaimed, the first to rush forward with a hug. Olivia knelt carefully, embracing her as though afraid her daughter might break. "Hello, my love," she murmured, tears shining in her eyes. Lily hesitated a moment longer, but then joined the hug as well. "We missed you," she said quietly. "I missed you both so much," Olivia replied, her voice trembling with emotion. "More than I can ever express." The first few days were an exercise in adjustment for everyone. Olivia moved through the house with a quiet reverence, as though relearning her place in it. Ethan watched carefully, ready to offer help or intervene if needed. The twins alternated between delight at having their mother back and moments of uncertainty, remnants of the past trauma that still needed time to heal. One evening during dinner, Daisy accidentally knocked over a glass of water. For an instant, terror crossed her face, a memory of when a small mistake could trigger an outburst. Sensing her daughter's fear, Olivia quickly reassured her. "It's okay, sweetheart," she said softly. "Accidents happen. Let's clean it up together, all right?" Daisy's relief was evident, and Ethan felt a surge of pride at how Olivia handled the situation. As days became weeks, a new routine emerged. Family therapy sessions, now including Olivia, served as a focal point, a safe space where everyone expressed their feelings and worked together to heal old wounds. During one of these sessions, Lily, typically the more reserved twin, finally mustered the courage to voice her deepest fears. "Sometimes," she began, her voice quivering slightly, "I'm afraid everything will go back to how it was before, that Mommy will get angry again and try to make us change." Olivia felt those words like a dagger to her heart, but thanks to her extensive treatment, she managed to respond calmly and empathetically. "Sophie, my love," she said, choosing her words carefully, "I understand your fear. What I did was very wrong, and I'm so sorry I scared you and your sister. But I need you to know I'm working hard every day to be a better mom. You two are perfect just the way you are, and my job is to love and protect you, not change you." Tears ran freely down Lily's cheeks, and soon the entire family was in an emotional embrace, words replaced by a profound moment of connection and healing. As summer approached with longer, warmer days, the Sterlings began planning for a special occasion, the twins' birthday. It would be the first big celebration since Olivia's return, and everyone was determined to make it memorable for all the right reasons. On the day of the party, the mansion's garden transformed into a children's paradise. Colorful balloons, a table laden with treats, and an elaborate cake decorated with musical notes, a nod to the girls' love for music, now appreciated on their own terms. School friends, therapists who had become almost part of the family, and even a few carefully chosen relatives gathered to celebrate not only Lily and Daisy's birthday, but also the rebirth of the Sterling family. The most moving moment came when the candles were lit. Ethan and Olivia, standing side by side, watched with full hearts as their daughters got ready to make a wish. "Wait," Lily said suddenly, surprising everyone. "Can I say something first?" All eyes turned to her as she took a deep breath and began. "I want to thank all of you. Daddy for always protecting us. Mommy for working so hard to get better. CLA for being the best sister in the world. And everyone else who helped us. Our wish," she glanced at Daisy, who nodded in agreement, "is that we can keep being like this, a family that loves and takes care of each other." Not a single eye was dry in the garden when the girls finally blew out the candles, their faces lit not just by the flames, but by genuine joy. Later that evening, once the party was over and the exhausted girls were asleep, Ethan and Olivia sat on the veranda, gazing at the stars. "Did you ever imagine we'd get here?" Olivia asked softly. Ethan took her hand, feeling the wedding ring that still symbolized their commitment. "There were times I doubted," he admitted, "but I never gave up hope entirely." Olivia nodded, tears gleaming in her eyes. "Thank you for not giving up on us." As the night wore on, Ethan reflected on the extraordinary journey his family had taken. From silence to sound, from fear to trust, from pain to healing. It had not been an easy road, and he knew there would still be challenges ahead. But looking at his wife, thinking of his daughters asleep upstairs, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. They had faced a silence, physical and emotional, that threatened to tear them apart. In its place, they had built something beautiful, a symphony of love, forgiveness, and resilience. The Sterling estate, once a place of secrets and pain, now echoed with laughter, music, and open conversation, a living testament to the power of unconditional love, the strength of family, and humanity's capacity to overcome even the darkest challenges. As the first shooting star streaked across the sky, Ethan made a silent wish, that his family would continue to grow, learn, and love, always finding their voice, even in the quietest moments.